Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome back to the Daily Palace podcast, brought to you by the Global Sports Podcast Network. I'm Joe Lodge. I've cut my hair right back. I told my barber I want to look like Palace's second highest Premier League goal scorer. I meant Jonathan Mateta. He thought I meant Andy Johnson. I managed to intervene while we were still somewhere in the Justin Devaney spectrum. With me today is a man whose hair is always as sharp as his insight, although he's covering it with a cap today, which I wasn't anticipating when I wrote that line. It's Wale Bakari. How are you doing, Wale?
I'm all right, Joe. Great to see you. How are you?
I'm very well. Very well, thank you, mate. Very well. Pleased to have had my quarterly haircut. I will see my barber.
It looks nice. Is this new? I might have seen you wear a similar coat before.
You should wear a similar coat, definitely. Yeah. It's similar. I can see how that's confusing, but no, the hair has changed. But it's hard to tell with a distractingly nice jacket on. Yeah. Well, today we are going to talk about Palace's midfield, the club's most recent cent and 50 early on, and then design some club-themed homeware. So, as anyone who's ever seen me chew through the tinfoil on a burrito can tell you, I like to start things from the middle. Going from the middle for Palace, the club and England centre mid, Adam Wharton, has in the last few weeks returned to regular action after an injury layoff that kept him out from the end of October till the start of February. He's featured in Palace's last three matches against United, Doncaster and Everton. How do you think he's looked so far, Wale, since coming back?
Gradually getting back to form. It's good to have him back. We know very well what he's capable of doing. He's able to bring some calm into the midfield. He's able to link play. He's able to wriggle out of tight spaces sometimes. And he didn't have a great start to the season before the injury worries, to be honest, but you could make the claim that that was the story of the vast majority of Palace players at the start of the season. The injury, even though no one likes to go away for weeks without playing, but it was an opportunity for him to, get some very deserved rest, especially after a very action-packed, last couple of weeks last season. He played virtually all games for Palace after joining mid-season. Although he didn't play in the Euros, but I'm sure it must have been draining training, ahead of games. The mental fatigue as well, dealing with wanting the team to play well, trying to be ready anytime it was called into action. So the injury offered him a chance to rest, offered him a chance to maybe get some sharpness back. And if the last games, a couple of games that we've seen is anything to go by, it looks like it's getting back to that level that we know he can get to. Remember, just before he got injured, there were talks about Manchester City possibly looking in his direction, especially after the injury to Rodri. They've gone on to sign Nico from Porto, though. But there's already, I don't know whether that's an intentional thing or whether it's someone pushing that, but there's already talks again about City not losing interest in him. So it is one that is exciting. It could, get into a number of mid-table clubs, teams in the Premier League when he's playing well. And it would just be really nice to see him get back to the level that we know. Is definitely one of those players that I would expect to start to be one of the very first few names on the starting team for Glasner if he's fit.
I think you'd be absolutely wasted at City. I have to say the joy of Adam Wharton, the quality is that risk taking on the ball. Sometimes he's so eager to punch a ball between the lines and get it into the final third as quickly as possible, a bit like a kind of 90s midfield maestro. And a team where he has to play a safe pass or stick rigidly to some preset patterns, I think you'd lose a lot of what was special about him. So I'm happy that he continues to do his business at Palace. I think he's looked rejuvenated in the little bit we've seen of him since coming back, without doing any one remarkable thing you can point to. He just seems like he's moving a bit freer and a bit more confidently was at the start of the season. As you say, he had a really long summer and really long end, sort of final 6 months of the Premier League season, and had been playing week in, week out in the Championship before that, which is physically no mean feat in itself. That's a pretty grueling schedule and a very physical league.
Coming from Blackburn, yeah?
Blackburn, yeah. Came from Blackburn in January, didn't he? So I think just having that rest, if you can call it that, an injury, and potentially that time out of the spotlight, out of the pressure cooker, has been probably good for him. I mean, the view of people around the club seems to be that he isn't the kind of man that is affected by the spotlight and the pressure that brings. But nevertheless, it has to be good to have a bit of a reset. Everyone can use a holiday every now and then. And I think he looks really sharp and powered Palace in that second half against Everton. Obviously, ultimately, it didn't come off, but they were incisive and penetrative and had lots of chances to score, and I feel probably should have had enough chances to win the game. And part of that was Wharton coming on in the second half and just quickening things up, quickening the play up a little bit. So that'd lead me on to, you said there, you think he will be, when he's sort of fully back to fitness, one of the first names on the team sheet for Palace. If he's ready or nearly ready to reclaim his spot as one of the starting centre mids in the club, who loses out? Because I think we probably would all say that Hughes and Lerma have done a great job holding down central mid, pretty much the two of them all season. It would feel a bit harsh to drop one of them, but who goes to accommodate Wharton?
Well, no, I would normally say Will Hughes, because I always thought Jefferson Lerma was a better all-round midfielder. He shields the defense more, is calmer. Probably wouldn't get a yellow card every game compared to Will Hughes. But Hughes is in such a good form at the moment that it's quite difficult to drop him from the team. If I'm asked to choose who to start a game for Palace at the moment, it would be Wharton and Hughes, starting in the middle of the park. But you can also rule out what Jefferson Lerma brings into the team. As I said, it shields the defense well. He's a bit calmer, or he's a bit of a calmer head than Hughes. He has that height advantage in set pieces, especially defensively. But at the moment, Hughes is playing so great, and I would really love to see a Hughes Wharton combination in the next couple of games coming. And it's quite interesting. There's a number of positions in the Palace squad at the moment that we might be seeing some changes in some players. Talk about Chilwell and Tyrick Mitchell's situation. Also talk about, there's been talks about Eze hasn't been starting games. There's been some questions about his style, Glasner's style, although I don't know what they're talking about there, though. But there's been talks about some changes in the squad, but specifically about the midfield pairing at the moment. If Wharton's back and he's back in the squad, it would be Wharton Hughes for me.
Yeah, I think it has to be Wharton Hughes at the moment for a couple of reasons. One is just, as good as Lerma's been, Hughes really has been the standout in central midfield in this period of...
Can a case be made for Daichi Kamada, though?
Oh, well, what I was going to say which would be interestingly linked to that actually, is one of the reasons why I think Hughes and Wharton makes the most sense is if you think about the kind of balance of the Palace team at the moment, the defence is really solid. And I think it's the sixth best in the league in terms of goals conceded. And then the attack is the 15th best in the league. They can probably afford to lose a little bit of screening and shielding, which is Lerma's greatest strength, for sort of more directness, incisive passing. So that's why I was going to say more Hughes and Wharton, because Hughes has really upped his game in that regard recently as well. And also is just slightly, even though I think both him and Lerma are defensively inclined, but he's a little bit less defensively inclined than Lerma. Kamada is, of course, less defensively inclined than either of them. Wharton and Kamada, it's interesting. I feel like it's definitely a time for it when Palace say they've conceded early and they're up against a team that are going to play a low block and just try and bed in. You could have two really incisive, inventive players there that can think of creative ways to pick a lock and find a way through. I feel like, as much as I've just said, there needs to be rebalanced more attacking the Palace team. Wharton and Kamada gives me a bit of nervousness about vulnerability just being run through the middle of.
And I just think about Wharton, and I think he does the simple things. He's able to make the simple passes, just link play. He's able to maybe play defense fleeting passes, so to speak. If you play Kamada Wharton, that would maybe mean Wharton would have more defensive duties. He looks like one. Personally, I look at him and I think I want him to play alongside someone who, shoulders more of the defensive duties and just lets him express himself. So maybe that's the counter argument against the Wharton Kamada. So Wharton will use, of course, will make sense, but there's so many yellow cards. Will use will will get. Where
the thing about Will Hughes' disciplinary record is it gives everyone else a good chance to play. It won't be a solid partnership, and I think that speaks to the more important point, which is with the amount of football that teams in the Prem play these days and the intensity of the central midfield zones, you really don't want the same two midfielders playing 90 minutes every time, starting the game every time. So probably it's just rotating on a case-by-case basis. Any sort of combination of Wharton, Lerma, Hughes, maybe Kamada in there as well. And that's the best thing Palace can do. So maybe we're thinking about it in the wrong way by trying to pick a strongest two. But yeah, I think if there is a strongest two, I would agree Wharton Hughes probably is the one going forward for now. With that, we'll have a word from our newest sponsor.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bionique, the world's most personalised supplements. Bionique provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN 2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bionique. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Now, there is an EE in the country today whose profile has risen over the last few years, not through expensive Kevin Bacon-led adverts, but through sheer consistency and quality of service. I am talking, of course, of Eberechi Eze, who played his 150th game for Palace, coming off the bench against Everton the weekend. Two questions about Eze for you, Wale. One, what's your favourite moment from his time in a Palace shirt? And 2, how high does he rank on Palace's all-time Prem greats? He's got to be pushing his way up there.
Yeah, to be honest, there's a number of moments where I've just watched Eberechi Eze and I thought, oh, he's just brilliant. From doing the video of how to correctly pronounce his name when he joined Crystal Palace to dancing past a lot of or gliding past midfielders and taking the ball from the back and going all the way to the front for Palace, and some of the great goals that he scored. Got a fantastic goal against Chelsea. I remember was goal of the season for Palace fans the other time. I remember he scored a nice goal against Liverpool one time as well. But there was a goal against Wolves in 2023. That game finished 3-2. Palace won. It was Jean-Philippe Mateta. You'd like this. He came on for about 20 minutes. Got 2 assists because Otine Dua, I think, had given Palace the lead. Was it? Anyway, Wang Yi-chan had gotten an equalizer for Wolves, and Mateta came on in the game. And then there was a pass, over the head of the midfield. Is Eustace back, passed the ball to Eze, is flicked the ball to Eze, who then has run past the ball and just used his heel to control the ball and slaughtered a fantastic finish beyond the Wolves goalkeeper. And a goal like that typifies as calmness in the most chaotic situations. Sometimes he doesn't, things don't go his way. Sometimes after a great run, tries to shoot the ball and then it doesn't catch it properly. Sometimes he loses the ball while trying to beat players, but
sometimes he scores of the season contender and Will Hughes
exactly.
has pushed home.
Exactly. but he is definitely one of the most talented players Palace fans have seen at Selhurst. Since he joined, it's just been absolutely amazing. And when you look at a player like Michael Olise and what he's doing at Bayern Munich at the moment, Eze and Olise were not so far off in terms of quality. They together were the best players in Palace in the last couple of seasons. But you see what Olise is doing at Bayern and what playing around players of such quality, playing in that kind of team, can bring out of you. And I just wonder, Eze is 27 at the moment. There were talks about him leaving at that time when Olise was, especially now there's all sorts of talks. We don't know how true it is about, Glasner and his style. And it's 27 now. I just wonder, whether it's probably that time where we'll be saying, "Oh, I want to experience, something bigger or something." But I would love him, at Palace for many more seasons to come because he's absolutely wonderful and he's just one that is able to create something out of nothing. And you don't find a couple of teams in the Premier League don't have players who can just, take things by the scruff of the neck and just create something out of nothing. And players like Eze are difference makers, and he's that good. And we've seen him do that. As to where he ranks amongst, Palace Premier League greats, it's quite difficult because there's different reasons. There's players who are regarded as, Palace greats because they were absolute, wonderful servants for the club, played so many games, stayed so many years, some out of the team a couple of times, and then got back into the team. When you look at someone like Julian Speroni, for example, stayed so many years at Palace. His number of appearances doesn't necessarily tally with the number of years that he spent at Palace, but Palace fans have wonderful, great memories of Speroni. Talk about Will Zaha and the goals that he scored going to United and then coming back to Palace, helping get Palace back into the Premier League and all of that. So there are some players that it will be tough for Eze to, at the moment, get above of as regards where he ranks. But I look at as far as I've worked Palace for years now, and I know that there's not many players above Eze in terms of his ability to conjure things out of nothing, in terms of his ability to get the team out of difficult situations. Maybe when you look at the number of goals he scored in Palace, maybe not the most, but it's a midfield player, and what he brings to Palace is more than the goals. I would place him I would place Zaha, Peroni, uh, maybe Johan Cabaye. I might place players like that above him. Joel Ward, of course, another. These are players because of the longevity and what they did for the team. But as far as attacking play is concerned, Ian Wright did have some Premier League seasons at Palace. When you talk about Zaha, Wright, I might even be putting.
I think Wright only played in Division 1. I might be wrong. I'm happy to be proven wrong there. I did check this when I was trying to decide where is I ranked.
I might even be putting Eze ahead of Olise. That's how much I love watching the man, and it's definitely one of the greatest attacking players the Palace fans have seen in the Premier League in recent years.
100%. As you say,
did you see? I found a way to not put him exactly somewhere.
Yeah, it's very diplomatic, Wale. I'm also going to do the same. But I think he's, as you say, he's been great. Could be that this season's the last we see of him. I hope it's not. I'm sure that I'll bear him no ill will, and he'll do well wherever he goes, unless it's United or Tottenham, in which case that'll be a career-ruining move, without a doubt.
He's supposed to be moving to a bigger club,
Yeah. I think with Eze, he has to be really edging himself towards Palace's Premier League Mount Rushmore in terms of sort of talent, the years he's done it for, and his output. He's probably second, really, to Wilf Zaha, who's pretty clear at the top. He's second in a very literal sense in output. I think understood as goals and assists. I think he's on 48. That's what I calculated earlier, and I think that does put him second. And as you say, he's about more than just goals and assists. He contributes more than some other players, naming no names, Christian Benteke, who are kind of around that area of Palace's list for top combined goals and assists in the Prem. The thing that maybe counts against him is that he's just done it all in a period of sort of positive side, competence, calmness at Palace, negative side, stagnation. So while he's been really exciting on the pitch, you maybe don't associate him with periods of the Premier League adventure that Palace fans find as exciting as some of those earlier stalwarts. But if he stays around another year, can break new ground in some way, say help Palace qualify for Europe, maybe even win a piece of silverware that isn't the stateside cup. Who knows? He could put him right up there. But I think he's already got to be in the top kind of 4 or 5 Palace Prem players for me. Maybe top 2 or 3 in terms of entertainment value, behind perhaps Jean-Philippe Mateta and Yannick Bolasie.
Yeah, maybe Bolasie. Maybe
Bolasie on his day. With that, we will have our second ad of the episode and then wrap up with a bit of blue sky thinking. Do you have a story the world needs to hear? Have you struggled with reaching new audiences who engage with your story? It might be time for you to start a podcast. Let me tell you about a platform we use here at Global Sports Podcast Network. Zencastr makes it easy to start a high-quality podcast built for growth from day one. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes ums, ahs, your nose, and 22 other speech patterns, Zencastr makes it super easy to start a podcast that sounds great. Ready to tell your story? Check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. So we don't make a habit of giving airtime to the Palace's mortal enemies on this podcast, but we'll make an exception for this next person. Meghan Markle has recently relaunched / rebranded her brand of luxury homeware as ever. I think that's how it's pronounced. Crystal. I think that's gonna be sold with Netflix. Classic tap, jam, plates, all that kind of stuff. Crystal Palace are always in need of new revenue streams, so I'm thinking, how can we build a similar brand around the club? So, welcome to the part of the podcast I'm calling Homewaresdale end of the podcast. Wale, if you had to build a homeware brand around the Eagles, what would it be called and what items would you sell?
I had to think about this and think about what I love and what I would really love. I've seen the amount of music that the boys are listening to at the moment. I've seen the level of great music that's been blasted in Celos. I remember watching an interview of the stadium DJ the other day, which I enjoyed, by the way. I don't know whether. I just wonder whether. I've always loved to be able to have speakers of my own, and naturally, it's Crystal Palace, so we're looking at crystal shaped, if that means anything, crystal shaped speakers.
I like it a lot. I have an image. I have an image.
If that means crystal shaped speakers, and they're going to be called, it's going to be called the Music Palace. And
oh, nice.
Do you think I have a chance going on? What was it called? Is it Dragon's Den? Yeah,
Dragon's Den. I think you have a massive chance on Dragon's Den.
Yeah,
certainly Eagle's Nest. Failing that, I actually had a similar thought as part of the range I'm collating.
You guys really or something else?
John Philippe Mateta branded boom boxes. I was going to call them.
Ooh, nice.
But there's a whole range around this. Yeah. So I'll explain my thoughts to you here. Why I'm thinking a high-end French homeware brand. People like French homeware called John Philippe. There will be a fragrance called Number 14, or the French for Number 14.
Nice.
There'd be a range of colourful, charming, intellectually stimulating children's books. I'm thinking Wharton, Here's a Who, Leah Berry, Hungry Caterpillar, and The Fault in Our Stars.
You definitely took this more seriously than I did.
We're having a series of scented, passive-aggressive postcards for when you want to politely make your feelings known to your neighbours about their bin etiquette and such what. They're all going to be addressed to recipients. The address line, the opening line of the postcard is going to be pre-printed to whom it may concern. And we're going to have luxury Mateta-shaped headstones should you want to bury your loved ones in the garden, called Boomstones. And I think with all that, maybe a game called Boom Raider, that might count as homeware at that point. But
well, I just worry about, because I just worry what then happens, because there's
what do you worry about?
There's all sorts of talks about, Mateta and his future, and teams wanting him. I just wonder what then happens, if he does leave Palace.
You sell the player, but
Do
keep
all
their
these
image,
amazing things go away from the seller's shop?
Right, it's a good point. It is concerning. It is concerning. I mean, what would the fallback plan be? John Phillip, you could kind of rebrand it all afterwards. An English homeware brand. I don't know. It would be a lot of wasted items, but I can't imagine. I'm thinking that these, every time you stock them, are going to fly off the shelves like Yeezys. So I don't think there's going to be any moment where you've got surplus where you've ordered too much. I think these are going to keep making money as they hit the shelves, until such a moment as he possibly could leave. But it would be it'd be an added incentive for the club to give him a good deal and make sure he stays, because, do you want to be a championship dwelling team with no John Philippe Mateta themed homeware brand, or a Champions League team whose rise to the top has been powered by the exponential growth in sales of Boomstones? I know which one I'd rather be. I know which one I'd rather be.
Oh, that's a nice one. Nice. Nice.
I think with that thought, with thoughts of burying loved ones under a granite Mateta kicking a corner flag, we'll wrap the episode up. Thank you, Wale, for joining me today.
Yes, well, always a pleasure, man.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star review, and we hope you tune in again tomorrow.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.